Professor Stephen Epstein is presently serving as director of the Asian Studies program at Victoria University of Wellington. He holds a doctorate from University of California, Berkeley, and before immigrating to New Zealand in 1994, he taught for 2 years at Swarthmore College. He has published widely on contemporary Korean literature, society, and popular culture, and translated numerous works of Korean and Indonesian fictions. Recent academic works include the Axis of Vaudeville image of North Korea in South Korean popular culture, and Complicated Currents, Media Flows, Soft Power, and East Asia. The most recent novel translation are The Long Roads by Kim In-suk and Telegram by Putu Wijaya, which was just published in Singapore.
Just launched on
Monday. He's currently working on a book tentatively titled Korea and Its Neighbors, Popular Media and National Identity in the 21st century. So without further ado, let's welcome Professor Epstein with a big round of applause.
Good morning. That works. Hello, everyone, and it's very, very nice to be here. I'm actually surprised that this is the first time that I've spoken at the RAS. Although I've been here for many, many occasions in the past, and it's nice to be up in front for a change. But one thing that I do want to say here, that my talk today, in fact, I took the role of lead author on a paper which will be forthcoming in the Korean Popular Culture Reader, which will be out in Duke University Press the year after next. But it was very much a collaboration with James Turnbull, who many of you will know as the blogger for thegrandnarrative.com, and James spoke here earlier this year, and I hope by invoking James' name and thanking him for the images that he supplied for a lot of the PowerPoint here. He has a flair for eye-catching images. But here he suffered from technical difficulties, and the projector died halfway through the talk, and I'm hoping that that doesn't happen to me tonight, as this is a very visual presentation. Now, the work that I've been doing, I think it's gotten about as big a response as anything that I've worked on. I've presented this in a couple of fora before, and it's something that is constantly evolving, and I'm assuming that many people here have come because of an interest in K-pop per se. And in fact, just this morning there was a review in the New York Times of the FM Town show that played a sold-out show in Madison Square Garden. There was something in the New York Daily News just yesterday on it as well. And there may be people here who are more au fait with developments over the last 6 months or so than I am. And there are some interesting things that don't quite take into account in the talk. Just other new songs that are constantly appearing that modify some of the points that I want to make, but we can talk about that in the question and answer section later on. In any case, girls' generation, gender, empowerment, as I said, but I think that disempowerment is very important as we look at K-pop. But the government position on K-pop here, the hottest phrase in Korea nowadays is undeniably girl group. But girl group fever is more than just a trend. It's symbolic of a cultural era that is embracing the expulsion of authoritarian ideology. And that is the table of contents blurb for a story on the rise of girl groups. Girl group. In the March 2010 issue of Korea Magazine, a public relations magazine that's published under the auspices of the Korea Culture and Information Service, and I see a few friends here who I know have worked for the Korea Culture and Information Service. And beginning in 2007, with the success of the Wonder Girls, ensembles that are composed of usually from 3 to 9 females in their teens or early 20s, have dominated South Korean popular music. And certainly the explosion of the term gogu in recent public discourse is undeniable. A search of the KBS News archive, for example, turns up the first use only in 2008, with just 3 citations for the entire year. By 2009, however, this number had increased to 39, and in 2010, KBS News ran 174 items employing the term gogu. Interest continues unabated. I haven't gone on to check out fully what's gone on in 2011, but in January alone, you had 31 stories on KBS that featured the term. Now, just as notably, governmental forces are taking advantage of the term. In May 2010, for example, one girl group song, by 4 Minute, was championed as, quote, extolling freedom of choice and used as part of a radio propaganda broadcast to North Korea. The following month, the Defense Ministry discussed broadcasting girl group music videos on screens along the DMZ as part of psychological warfare operations. Now, in contrasting but related fashion, the recent success of Korea's girl groups in Japan has become central to promoting a second surge of the Korean wave, and heralded by the media in sometimes strident fashion here. Korean idols occupy the Japanese archipelago, lay waste to Japan. Han idol 일yogo 천명, 일본 쇼토화 시기다, reads the title of one particularly egregious article. And strikingly, a number of reports on the high-profile dispute of the girl group T-ara, with its management focused not on the suit itself or the controversial labor structure of the entertainment system, but rather on the effects that the dispute might have on Korean assertions of brand and nationalism. Now, all of these examples illustrate the extent to which girl groups have become both a newsworthy item for media authorities and a tool to be wielded for official interests. As Korea Inc. deploys its cultural industries in a bid for global market share, the genre successes has led to a hyperbolic discourse that seeks to transcend the narrower realm of pop music. That Korea article that I said before continues this way. No matter our age or gender, these girls allow us to dream once again, moving us with their cheerfulness and a feeling of fresh radiance. The vibrancy of their songs, dances, clothes, and performances is so irresistible that every move is picked up by the world's radar. They render the term singer insufficient. They are at the edge of the frontier of popular culture. But they are not just pioneers, they are the culture. And I assume that all of you are dreaming once again, moved by their cheerfulness. Nonetheless, despite top-down promotion and accompanying breathless celebrations, the liberating nature of the phenomenon remains debatable. Now, whenever the market drives musical creation, groups are manufactured rather than arising organically, authenticity becomes suspect, and the organization of Korea's music industry allows idol groups minimal artistic autonomy. Furthermore, within a context of changing social mores and reduced profits from Korea's notoriously high levels of illegal downloading, the need for entertainment companies to attract attention for their own performers amidst the current glut of groups has led to a significantly increased sexualization of music videos, performances, and commercial endorsements. But what I think is especially questionable here is the correlation that is made between having a preponderance of successful young female ensembles in the Korean pop scene with an expulsion of authoritarian ideology. So in this talk, what I want to do is engage in a reading of the lyrical and visual codes of some of the key music videos of Korean girl groups since 2007, in order to challenge the notion that the phenomenon signals genuine escape from patriarchy or deeply embedded power structures. And what I want to argue is that although elements of current packaging may be novel, the gender ideologies that are being propagated by such popular groups as Girls' Generation, T-ara, the Wonder Girls, Miss A, 2NE1, 4 Minute, and so on, offer society and young women in particular, at best, a highly ambivalent empowerment. Now, there's a lot of work that exists on gender in Western popular music generally, and music videos specifically, and scholars have certainly addressed Korean gender ideologies in film and drama. But so far, surprisingly little work has been done on gender in contemporary Korean popular music, despite the importance of gender as a key issue driving its production and consumption, and pop music's prominence as a site for the transmission of and contestation over gender roles. And here, I treat girl group music videos as a crucial component in the contemporary dissemination of ideologies of gender and sexuality for a few significant reasons. First of all, although you still have more what we might call traditional consumption of Korean pop music, albeit with cassettes and CDs having been replaced by digital media playback, Korean pop music is driven by the visual, not just by live performances on television, but in music videos. And as Kim Hoon-soon of Ewha University notes, the music video has captivated the younger generation and has changed the notion of music from that of something primarily auditory to something to watch as well. And music videos are now consumed in large numbers on the internet. As of July of this year, the two most watched videos of all time on the Korean YouTube channel were both from girl groups. The official video for the Wonder Girls song Nobody, which had been viewed 51 million times at that point, and G by their competitors Girls' Generation, which had been seen over 47 million times. And the savvy use of YouTube, which is both literally and figuratively the key site for the experience and distribution of music at a mass level, is now a core component of Korean entertainment companies' promotion strategies, especially internationally. And memorable images from girl group music videos and signature dances from songs become touchstones in Korean pop culture and circulate widely. And I imagine that most of you who were here in 2007 can still remember people doing like the dance from Tell Me and mimicking that. Secondly, with few exceptions, performers don't compose their own music, but they become part of the stable of large conglomerates, at the moment headed by the triumvirate of SM Entertainment, YG Entertainment, and JYP Entertainment, who together manage most of the groups that I'm going to discuss. And in fact, you may well regard Korean pop music artists as general entertainers, and thus the unintended irony in the characterization before the term singer as being insufficient. Because with the collapse of recorded music sales, success now really has come to depend not so much on vocal talent as dancing ability, physical attractiveness, and the projection of image through appearance in live performances, television programs, magazine spreads, celebrity events, and advertisements. And in this environment, music videos in an autonomous expression of performers' sensibility really don't exist. Instead, what we have are a marketing tactic that is concocted by managers to sell a cultural product. Thirdly, another important point is that in order to be effective, a music video really does have to resonate with the zeitgeist in the way that it conforms to, or in some cases challenges, normative expectations. And in this sense, they become part of a discourse that is socially constructed by the interplay among mainstream mores and values, consumption practices, and subjective interpretation of its meanings by its audiences. Now, concentrating on a reading of lyrics and music videos, though, requires some caveats. Now, while the reception of any text is open to contestation, that's sort of a truism, it's particularly tough with music videos because the rapid cross-cutting between shots and the contextualizations that you get within them do a lot less to foreclose particular interpretations than the generally more coherent narratives of film or fiction, and the medium succession of fragmented, spectacular images set to music allows individuals an enormous range in the construction of meaning. And one very interesting study that was done of reactions from the audience to music videos by Madonna, scholars demonstrated that there were wide differences in reactions and interpretation based on the race, the gender, and the reported level of fandom of the viewer. And I think something similar is going on in terms of the way people can react to a lot of Korean pop music videos. And we'll see some examples of that later on. So basically, I want to stress that although the readings that I'm going to give you of Korean girl group music videos, while hopefully interesting and illuminating, they're really meant to stimulate discussion rather than to be authoritative. But basically, what I want to do is to infiltrate the triumphant discourse of the cultural industries and their champions with a more critical appraisal. And really the research questions that I've been going at here in looking at Korean girl groups and music videos is basically, what role is pop music in the rise of girl groups, more specifically playing in contemporary Korean gender ideologies? Is the rise of girl groups offering individuals an opportunity for self-empowerment? And importantly, do these answers differ? It may be that there are significant differences depending on the particular group, on the position of the particular consumer, or the media platforms that are involved here. But probably the most important question of all is to ask, and this is from Kim Hun-soon again, is really, are the postmodern expressions of Korean music videos, quote, just another representational strategy that sustains gender discrimination by reinforcing the cultural logic of consumer capitalism, or do they form a resistant style of expression that can break away from the binarism of the existing patriarchal system? Now, as I hope to demonstrate, recurrent tropes in the study presentation of girl groups undercut any claims to a progressive ethos. And instead of getting nuanced views of gendered social identities, Korean girl group music videos and lyrics, albeit with exceptions, reinforce a dichotomization of male and female. As Cha Eun-jin argues in one of the few academic analyses of the girl group phenomenon to have appeared so far, management companies have targeted varying audiences through product differentiation with, say, Girls' Generation and T-ara at one pole epitomizing the stoking of male fantasy, and at the other you have 4 Minute and To Anyone who strive for identification from young females. But nonetheless, regardless of where videos fall in relationship to this continuum, not only do the roughly 100 videos that James and I surveyed for this project, almost without exception, focus on the female image as visual spectacle, they fit within a very limited set of categories. And most notably, first of all, and I think this is the largest category, while you do have girl group singers who are expressing desire, the viewer in such videos is regularly constructed as male, and the potential assertion of subjectivity is accompanied by a coy passivity that returns initiative to men. Secondly, you get a set of songs that suggest women's exertion of control, but influences wielded through the force of a feminine sexuality that makes men helpless, and thus transmits a message that narcissistic desirability is the way to redress power imbalance. And even 2 additional categories of songs which are seemingly directed more towards young females through referencing solidarity and acting according to one's own wishes, or getting revenge on an unfaithful boyfriend, nevertheless remain committed to a self-objectifying preoccupation with an external gaze, or continue to define women in relation to men. And this typology of these 4 types isn't exhaustive, but the prevalence of songs from these categories really does challenge more benign interpretations of the current dominance of girl groups in Korean pop culture. Okay, the first set of girl group videos, those in which desire, often unrequited for a male, is expressed. And while it's difficult to assess the impact of a given song, sales, chart listings, and internet video hit counts offer a pretty good gauge of significance. And so I want to begin with the analysis with one of the most iconic and ubiquitous Korean hits of the last few years, Oh, by Girls' Generation, which was released in January of last year. Girls' Generation really being the currently reigning princesses of K-pop. And we don't have a live internet port, but I'm just curious, how many people here have seen the music video for Oh at some point? Not quite as many as I thought. I bet a lot more people will have heard the song, at least annually, in Korea. If you've been in Korea over the last year and a half, I would be surprised if you had managed to avoid it completely. So you might recognize the lyrics here in any case. But just have a look here at the lyrics. And the video itself, a stylistic of Korean girl group videos is a brief introductory sequence that sets up the song proper and provides a frame of reference in which to read it. And O begins with the 9 members of Girls' Generation relaxing playfully in an apparent communal living situation. And after 8 seconds of music that resembles a calliope and reinforces a carnival-like atmosphere, the viewer sees a computer displaying an image of the 9 members of the band wearing football cheerleader outfits, and each holding a placard to spell out in English girl's heart, you. And the group members thus announce collective affection for a second-person addressee, ambiguously treated as singular or plural in a strongly gendered image that renders this you and the viewer male. And the video then launches into the song itself with the visuals cutting between the band at home and in ensemble dance performances at a football stadium. And here you've got the lyrics. Oppa, look at me, take a good look at me. This is the first time I've talked like this. Ha! I fixed my hair and put on makeup. How come you're the only one who's so oblivious? Thump, thump, my heart is beating. I keep on imagining. What should I do? I used to be so stuck up. I want to tell you, oh, I love you, Oppa, so much. Please don't laugh. I'm shy. I really mean it. Please don't tease me. But there go my silly words again. Now, several points here deserve comment. Now, first of all, the term of address applied here for the male, as in most girl group songs, is oppa. And literally, as I'm sure everyone here knows, that means the elder brother of a female, but it can be used by young women to address a slightly older male, often with the connotation of amatory interest. And in Korea's age-based hierarchy, the term, by definition, subordinates the female, and its use thus becomes part of the repertoire of aegyo, which is this calculated performance of cuteness, this sort of thing. Infantilizes those, most frequently female, who engage in it in the hope of gaining the favor of a superior or attracting romantic attention. And one should also consider the decision to present Girls' Generation as cheerleaders for American football, which is far from a major sport here in Korea. Now, invocation of a fantasy in America is actually not that uncommon in Korean music videos, presumably not only to facilitate international appeal, eye-catching images, and the free flow of imagination that characterizes the genre, but also to get away from the need to conform closely to Korean reality. And here I think the pairing of football players with cheerleaders emphasizes gender differentiation as well. The men's pads and their helmets, which obscure their faces throughout, accentuate power and virility. In comparison, the women appear fragile and delicate, an impression which is enhanced by close-ups of their affected aegyo poses. And elements of hero worship are also evident, as members of Girls' Generation are seen holding, embracing, or kissing the helmet, which comes to embody a rugged, desirable, hard masculinity. And the lyrics of the song apologize for the girls' forwardness and the desire for attention, as they announce that never before have they spoken so daringly, but the overwhelming attractiveness of oppa has impelled the sexual maturation, and he is presented as the first object of affection, yet nonetheless remains impassive. In harmony between the members of the group offsets intimations of rivalry, and the video's images and lyrics present an incongruity between claims of shy innocence and flirtatious overtures, revealing dress and eroticized dance moves. In other words, what you get going on in these videos is a coexistence of sort of these fantasy viewing projections of both virginal demeanor and eager collective anticipation of being deflowered. And this tension is pervasive in this category of girl group videos, serving as what I would call a quasi-master trope. In Girls' Generation mega hit G from 2009, there are enough similar elements present as to almost suggest conscious formula. The video opens with members of the group configured as mannequins in a clothing store, and the treatment of the group as figurines devoid of personality further erases an individuality that is already weakened by their ensemble performance. And apparel, what the clothing that they're wearing, is really designed to create a visual effect of overall likeness. And here the mannequins are seemingly inspired to life by their communal desire for the attractive male employee, and the song becomes an ode to romantic awakening. And it begins in English. Those of you who know it remember, listen boy, my first love story. And as in ode, the lyrics point to shyness and falling in love, also reference a heart that's thumping with excitement, and self-deprecating references to being made a fool by desire. And also get close-up of the women's hands brought to their upper body and face in childlike fashion, which is intended to be endearing, but that features throughout. And professions of shyness are interspersed with dance shots of the members in their signature hot pants. Now, the motif of dolls brought to life as fantasy figures becomes even more sexually charged in their follow-up sketch in 2009, Swan Madheba, Your Wish, which employs unusually 2 brief introductory sequences before the song proper. In the first, again, for those of you who remember or have seen the video, the members of the group materialize around a giant, an oversized genie lamp to the accompaniment of sitar and tabla, which sets the mood for lyrics that relate the girl's submissive willingness to serve as fantasy objects and effectively convert them into ciphers whose existence depends on flattering male desires, as you can see from the lyrics here. Tell me your wish, tell me the little dreams in your heart, try to draw the ideal woman in your head, and look at me, I'm your genie, your dream, your genie. Now the second introductory sequence employs a disco-inflected soundtrack that begins with a masculine voice that goes, hey, which can be, I don't know, either sleek or unctuous, depending on your perspective, and goes further in establishing the video as male erotic daydream. And the gendering of the camera's gaze becomes explicit. You have 3 successive point-of-view shots. A male whose hand is visible in front comes upon a trio of welcoming band members. And in the first shot, the subject opens a door and discovers girls fighting with pillows on a pink bed that remains suggestively visible at various points throughout the music video. And it's almost as though the camera has intruded upon a harem, or more to the point, a pornographic video set, and thus renders the viewer a voyeuristic accomplice as the girl's initial surprise yields to delight. In the second shot, the male is welcomed into a club scene and drawn towards soft drinks that are stacked on a table. And eager anticipation of male presence becomes particularly striking in this third shot as reminiscent of a stag party. A group member jumps out of a cake in welcome. And this sequence is recapitulated later on and adds hints of erotic progression from coy refusal to acquiescence and satisfaction. In the first, the side of the bed, one member wags a finger at the subject as if to say, naughty boy, but then another one gives a sort of come hither gesture as well. In the second, the subject snaps a photo of the girls posing. And the third involves the provocative smearing of white frosting from a cake that says, "I heart you," and I'll leave it at that. The video, unsurprisingly, is otherwise composed of seductive dance sequences with eroticized shots and ample attention to the group's bare legs. And there are a number of other videos that I could analyze that we talk about in the piece by T-ara and T-ara, but I'm going to skip over those in the interest of time and move on to the second sort of video. Now, in her study of Korean music videos shortly after the turn of the millennium, Kim Hoon-soon notes that women are presented in polarized images as either an innocent and sweet girl or a provocative and sexy femme fatale, but also that many images fall between the two extremes, such as a sexy yet innocent girl who focuses on her body dancing sexually. But by the latter part of the decade, this third option had become almost exclusive in girl group videos. Lyrical and visual strategies steer away from either or towards both and, urging in varying proportions a melding of the two poles as a goal to strive for. So you get claim to virtue that remains, but sexiness trumps it as the de rigueur quality. Patriarchal continuity remains obvious in the songs that I've analyzed so far, which depict an essential harmony between the sexes, governed by projections of availability and an encouragement of pursuit that returns power to the male. But in contrast, you have a further set of songs that suggest that the sexes are engaged in an antagonistic zero-sum struggle for control. And although such songs in encouraging action for women beyond flattering male fantasy are less obvious in submitting to traditional norms, nonetheless they too undercut their own movement towards a more hopeful world. If you take Irony, the first single from the Wonder Girls, whose success launched the current surge of girl groups, its introductory sequence has a shot of their logo and is followed by a wolf whistle. And although the English term wolf whistle doesn't translate literally into Korean, it's a useful phrase here because I think in the ideological universe of girl group videos, men are regularly looked at wolves, and women, not infrequently, are seen as young foxes. And these traditional animal metaphors continue to resonate in contemporary popular Korean discourse and envisage men as dangerous predators and women as sly creatures. And in songs that reflect such a worldview, women rely on physical attraction to gain an advantage rather than simply performing to the dictates of the male gaze. And the Wonder Girls 2008 hit So Hot flirts, I mean almost literally I would say, with narcissism as the desirable goal, and is worth analyzing for its simultaneous satire and nurturing of such an attitude. And that video opens with the front of a giant gift-wrapped box dropping away to reveal the group members strutting within. And each happens to have on a pair of clothing, a piece of clothing that has leopard print, which seems to convey a knowing feline sexuality. And the video then intersperses shots of them dancing provocatively within the box and being fawned over by male admirers, to the accompaniment of I think it's a pretty catchy song, an infectious hip-hop beat, but over-the-top lyrics, as you have here. Why do you keep looking at me? Am I that pretty? Well, even if I am, if you stare at me like that, I get a little embarrassed. Every time I pass by, guys turn around. I feel their hot stares from behind. What should I do? I'm so hot. I'm so fine. I'm so cool, and etc. Now, humor is undeniably present in this song. One of the members turns up her nose at the gifts her suitors present her with, and then gazes longingly at this huge diamond in a store window. And then when she turns around hoping that the guys are still there, they all scatter in fright. The group leader, Sunya, accepts a bouquet from a man who jumps for joy, and as soon as he does so, she flings the flowers over her shoulder. And the group isn't afraid to poke fun at itself. One of the members stumbles while walking on a red carpet in front of a theater marquee and then pulls herself up as if nothing happened. But the question is, what is the message that the video is ultimately trying to convey? The humor that's present might allow us all to dismiss it as just a joke, except for the fact that at the time of the song's release, the Wonder Girls were, I would argue, the top stars, pop stars in the land, and constructed in popular discourse as being iconically hot. So for them to claim to be so as they dance seductively only engages the irony that titled their first single in a very confused fashion. So their nesum, sort of this coy disavowal of inner intention of the group's members within the video and claiming to be embarrassed by stares, is matched by the song's larger, the meta-strategy, I'd say. And engagement with and manipulation of the male gaze could hardly be more self-conscious. One of the members plays to admiring cameras beneath that theater marquee, and paparazzi lurk in the bushes snapping shots of the group's rapper Yu-Being, who is lounging at a pool. But Yu-Being very coolly reverses the dynamic. When a man is so smitten by her that he falls off balance and belly flops into the water, she rates his dive like an Olympic judge, and she turns that 10 to a 0. So in other words, the video shows the Wonder Girls arousing interest in themselves and reveling in controlling access. And that's so, I guess it doesn't quite, you can barely see it right there. The shirt that she is wearing in the dance sequences reads "Stop," and I don't think that's a coincidence. And so the glamorous world that they inhabit encourages jealousy for the attention they receive and the power that they wield, despite their mock protestations that being a celebrity is tiresome. And as the climax, the rap climax of the song says, "All the boys be loving me, girls be hating me, they will never stop because they know I'm so hot, hot." But even as the video is sort of sanctifying this obsession with appearance, it also offers a reminder that attention is a scarce commodity. One of the members is dressed in a cheerleader costume and is surrounded by football players, but then another woman twirls by her, and her fickle admirers immediately turn towards the newcomer. So the video holds out, you might say, empowerment, but insecurity is its reward as well, because at any moment somebody who is so hotter than thou might come along. Last year's song "Bad Girl, Good Girl" by Nisei is one of the most intriguing and successful of the recent girl group videos, and it addresses the duality of its title head on and sort of inverts the framework of control and conflict from "It's So Hot." And here the members proclaim that when they dance they are bad girls, but in love they are good girls. And they criticize the hypocrisy of males who are mesmerized by their sex appeal, but then reject them for it. And this video opens in a high school as one member aggressively knocks a male student aside, and then she grinds her heel into the book that he's dropped. And in addressing the male gaze explicitly, the lyrics insist on a distinction between the external and the internal. And one of the taglines of the song is, "You don't know me, you don't know me, you don't know me, so shut up, boy, shut up, boy." And they lash out at male assertions of patriarchal privilege, portraying them as cowardly. So here's the lyrics. "You couldn't say anything in front of me, but you trash-talk me behind my back. Why do you judge me? Are you afraid of me? You look at me as if I'm pathetic, but the way you stare at me is ridiculous. You lose it when you watch me dance, but the hypocrisy of how you point out afterwards is really absurd. So the song is sort of standing the nesum of So Hot on its head. Instead of dissembling ulterior motives, this song claims that the true essence lies within. But despite the song's confrontational lyrics, the video makes the appropriation of dancing like a bad girl as pure self-expression problematic, because the video really does acquire a lot of its force from the eroticism of its choreography, which is noteworthy even by the standards of K-pop. And we just can't escape the fact the video is a product designed as a spectacle to arrest attention. And though explicitly addressed to men and perhaps evoking empathy on the part of women who might be tempted to join in singing "Shut Up, Boy," the song justifies commitments to the increasing demands of the public gaze in Korea's intensely mediated consumer culture. So blight, self-commoditization, and positive sense of self are meant to go hand in hand, even if prejudices need to be addressed. For those of you here, I know we've got some literary people. It makes me think of the Kim Young-han novel, but changed maybe to, I have the right to exploit myself here. So in this slide, it's not difficult to see the song as a cynically brilliant strategy on the part of Miss A's impresario, Jin Young Park. What's more difficult, though, is to see the song as genuinely empowering self-expression on the part of a band that includes among its 4 members 2 Chinese women who aren't native speakers of Korean, and Susie, the member on the left, who was then 16 years old. Now, 4 Minute, who I cited above as offering a song that professes freedom of choice and addressing females as their primary audience, hold out similarly ambivalent freedoms. Their first single, for example, declares their intention to become a hot issue. From head to toe, every single thing about me, hot issue, take control of everything. I'm always a hot issue. The shoes I wear without thought, the poses I strike the way I want, the lipstick I dab on carelessly, hot issue. Are you jealous of everything about my style that you can't copy me so carelessly? If you want, try to follow me, try to follow my style. And with brash claims to be in control of their destiny, they urge other young women to follow them, but they do so within the context of competition that relegates their fans to wannabe status, and additionally sees their appeal in terms of contemporary Korean stanzas of beauty. Other lyrics in the song are, my waist is slenderer than yours, and I've got long, slim legs. And their follow-up single, Huh, follows a similar lyrical pattern and speaks of a desire to be famous and determination to ignore people who don't believe that they can be on TV or in magazines or can become better looking. They're going to act the way they want. And similarly, another one of their songs, I Mean My, I can't really imagine a title that could be more self-centered, also speaks of acting nimamdero. And just as you have similar motifs recurring in the girls' generation songs, I think you've got similar formulas showing up in the songs by 4 Minute, because a lot of their songs have lyrics that talk about acting according to one's desires, being in control, declaration of hotness, and encouraging followers. But acting as one wishes for 4 Minute means recognizing the tenets of consumer and celebrity culture. And one of their most recent videos, Heart to Heart, which is pictured here, clipped there in the bottom left, exemplifies a final further category of recurrent videos that deserve consideration. And in this song, the group weekly engages in cruel pranks on the boyfriend of a member who's been caught sneaking off to chat up other girls at a club. In its use of a revenge motif, it resembles both the Wonder Girls' Irony, which depicts how one member, egged on by the rest, uses a voodoo doll to torment an unfaithful boyfriend, and I Don't Care by To Anyone, in which the group's members triumphantly humiliate cheating boyfriends in front of other women through magical entry into a time-stop world. In all 3 videos, suggestions of girl power solidarity draws on a wellspring of wish fulfillment. I Don't Care has been described by the To Anyone's lead singer, CL, as providing a warning message to men and advice for women. And the song exemplifies a change that YG Entertainment executive Jinu Kim describes as having occurred in recent years. He said, lyrically it used to be, oh, you hurt me so bad I'm going to curl up in a dark corner and cry my eyes out. Now it's like, I don't care anymore about you. Don't be messing with my heart. But it still remains worth noting that selfhood is still defined in relation to a validating and rejected male, and that revenge is collectively rather than individually exerted, and that elements of fantasy in these videos really undercut its reality. To Anyone, I think, in a lot of ways, is one of the most interesting and problematic bands, because they've gained a reputation among girl groups for feisty independence. And it's been estimated that as much as 70% of their fan base is female. And this distinctiveness is evident in songs of theirs like one called Can't Nobody, which is an ode to partying, in which they describe themselves as bad but good. and equipped with an immature charm and fearless youth, they're going to, pump up the volume and wake up the world, because right now they quote in the song, they say they don't give a fuck. But out of one of only 2 songs in the 100 that we surveyed about not recovering well from a breakup comes in fact from 2NE1. And their 2010 hit, Go Away, has a visual narrative of grief after losing a boyfriend, which ends with the race car that CL is driving here winding up in a fiery crash. And their recent song, Ugly, is also really interesting in that what you've got going on in that song, it appears to be showing a lot of anger. The chorus is in English, because I'm ugly and I think that nobody wants to love me just like her, I want to be pretty. And they throw TV sets through windows and spray paint cars and kick over trash cans. But instead of presenting any sort of alternative to what society offers, it's that they are still engaged with what society has present. So, how ultimately do we assess the collective effect of a pop phenomenon? And where does all of this leave us? And so what I've tried to demonstrate is that despite an official discourse promoting the meteoric rise of girl groups as emblematic of an empowering shift towards an egalitarian society, an analysis of the lyrical and visual codes of girl groups suggests a more ambivalent situation. And furthermore, the significantly increased dependence on the female form as a mainstay of pop culture demands a critical reading, even if it alternately suggests such differing strategies as catering to male fantasies of innocent yet willing throngs of young females, a conscious manipulation of the male gaze, or narcissistic self-exploitation directed at same-sex peers that dismisses patriarchy only to careen into the similarly problematic dictates of consumer-led capitalism. Indeed, you really do have to wonder, I think, what cultural products could empower young women given the hegemonic social structures of today. And while this conundrum may seem almost irresolvable, context does play an enormous role, and it's important to acknowledge here one really interesting thing, and that is the surprising reception of Girls' Generation in Japan, where fans have in fact been overwhelmingly young females. Now, although I've argued, hopefully cogently, for ways in which Girls' Generation videos treat them as fantasy figures for male consumption within Korea, young Japanese women, as widely reported in the Korean media, have found identification with Korean girl groups empowering, as they see them as role models in evincing a more adult sexuality than homegrown Japanese idols like, well, and Cute, as you can sort of hear if you compare To NE1's look to Cute's look. Now, within Korea, analysis of the overall effect of the rise of girl group also requires considering public reaction to the phenomenon as it emerged in 2007, particularly the young age of some performers. While Girls' Generation and the Wonder Girls were hardly the first groups to have members in their mid-teens, an increasingly sexualized presentation driven by industry pressures distinguished them from counterparts from a decade earlier, such as Finkel, Baby Box, and SDS. Seoul National University academic Kim Soo-ah notes that despite initial feminist objections, over time the newfound adult male fandom of this recent surge came to be framed popularly as an avuncular concern for the welfare of the girls, with sexual elements ignored. In fact, the way that these older fans, they call it Samsung fans, uncle fans. And as Kim, not Ajashi fans, by the way, Samsung. And as Kim argues, despite a heated online debate between noted cultural critics Kang Myung-suk and Lee Gyu-hyun, eventually Korean media and society generally found it difficult to acknowledge the possibility of more prurient interests in the sexy presentation of girl groups as a factor in their popularity. I think this was truer earlier on with the Wonder Girls than it is by 2011. But arguably, this discursive triumph, which was fostered by the enormous success of the Wonder Girls, opened a window for sexualization to increase, and given the logic of the globalized market and contemporary Korean media determination of appropriate roles for women, this objectification has enabled lyrical stances of either innocent passivity are more self-assured declarations of control, but each conjoined with increasingly provocative visual display. Girl groups and their current prominence in Korean pop culture thus intersect here with real life in mysterious ways. The 2010 Ministry of Gender Equality and Family Investigation found that 60% of girl group members admitted to pressure from managers to wear revealing clothing or perform dance moves with which they were uncomfortable. Moreover, we should recall Korea's score on the UNDP's 2008 calculation of the gender empowerment measure, which placed it at the lowest in the OECD. And not only has the participation rate of women in the workforce also consistently among the lowest in the OECD, stagnated at 50% or below since the IMF crisis, Korea stands out in being one of only 2 OECD countries where employers can legally demand photographs on resumes. And in these circumstances, the message that concentrating on sexual attractiveness allows a measure of control within a highly competitive society has the effect of co-opting consumers into feeling that they're exercising rational choice in accommodating to rather than challenging the state of affairs. Now, though presented in kid-free fashion, girl group videos, then, are far from apolitical cultural products. The prominent placement in Girls' Generation's Your Wish video of a soft drink that they were endorsing at the time underscores the increasing confluence of media and capitalism with the potential for vested interests in encouraging unhealthy body ideals. And in this light, maybe the most disturbing aspect of the video by the band T-ara for their song Like the First Time is the intensive weight loss regimen that is forced upon protagonist Hyo-min in order for her to prepare for her first date. And there's one scene where she is viewed riding a stationary bicycle frantically, and then she and another member of the group cheer when she gets off. They take a tape measure, place it around their waist, and the idea is like, oh, she's lost weight. And then they jump up and down. So what's really disturbing to me here is that the video is normalizing female complicity in society's surveillance by presenting it as the responsibility of friends to ensure that a peer adapts to the demands of beauty industry as well. And it's not a far step from the world of music videos and celebrity shows to real life, as performers focus on perceived imperfections with consequent loss of self-esteem and the possibility of serious health issues. Hyo-min, in fact, not only was already slim by any standards, which was one of the things that was disturbing about seeing her pumping away frantically on this exercise bike, concerns actually have emerged that she suffers from anorexia nervosa. And her situation isn't unique. Reputedly, the girls in Girls' Generation were said to be kept on a diet of 1,200 calories a day by their trainers, although I've seen that disputed. And one of the members, Sejong, was reportedly 9 kilograms underweight in February of this year. But it's clear that the media determination of ideal body image percolates down to the public, and statistics are showing a clear acceleration in body dysphoria in Korea in this decade, with increased percentages of women, and significantly men as well, seeking plastic surgery as a tool for advancement in a competitive job market. As early as 2002, a study found that fully half of high school girls in Korea were unable to donate blood because of anemia and malnutrition caused by dieting. And it's not just academics who are taking note of this. This is an offhand comment from YouTube user Rainbow Spades on a Girls' Generation song, which they were promoting a product, and it testifies to awareness and resentful acknowledgement of the disempowering consumption messages that are being propagated by Korean groupies. So I just ate a bag of chips, like those large bags. Then I came and watched this commercial thing. I feel so fat. Excuse me while I go burn all the junk food in my house and go exercise for 10 hours. Sonia Shide, Girls' Generation, why must you have such an effect on me? I want to eat my food in peace. And finally, just to return once more to the celebratory discourse from Korea Magazine that initially prompted my investigation of this topic, reason remains to question precisely what form of empowerment is offered by the rise of girl groups in contemporary Korea. Some are so surprised by the elder generation's enthusiasm for girl groups that they can't help but mention the Lolita complex. Nevertheless, that would be an example of an exaggerated principle that remains from the past authoritarian era. In the course of shifting from a masculine-dominated era to one of feminine equality, the imposing frames of age and gender are being slowly torn down. Time has come in pop culture where a man in his 40s can cheer for teenage girl groups without being looked at suspiciously. Now, a cynical conclusion is difficult to avoid as the logic here reaches, I think, almost comical proportions. The empowerment present in the rise of girl groups as a phenomenon is not that it brings young women to a heightened sense of their own possibilities in the world, which I should say is mentioned nowhere in the piece, but rather that Korea's pop culture commodification of sexuality has reached the point that for middle-aged men, to focus their gaze on an underage performance becomes cause for rejoicing rather than embarrassment. One might reasonably wonder in whose interest a discourse of empowerment is being disseminated. Thank you.